Hashem Na'aseh v'natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back continuing our series of the IGGERET HAGRA. We are, Baruch Hashem, getting closer and closer to completing the series, but I would say we're past halfway of the series, not quite at the end, but nonetheless, there's definitely a lot to learn from each week. This week, the Gaon Mivilna continues talking about the significance of the wife, who you're going to choose to marry you, who you're going to choose to marry, period. And also we have, of course, during Parashat Ki Tavo, a parasha that's full of some of the most difficult statements in the Torah as far as punishments are concerned. So tonight's shiur will be for Ilui Nishmat Alka Bat Leiba, and lehavdil also for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Rabbi Ephraim Ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Orit Bat Ilana, Rivka Bat Sarah, Tinok Ben Rivka, which Baruch Hashem, I'm told, was just released from the hospital miraculously, Baruch Hashem. So now both the mom and the new boy are out of the hospital, Bri'im Shlemim, completely healthy and complete, Baruch Hashem. And also for refuah shlema for Yitro Ben Avraham, Talia Bat Sarah, David Ben Nesria, Doris Bat Jora, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Amir Ben Shaheen, Marsha Bat Julie, Ayla Bat Marsha, Samuel Ben Marsha, Cephas Ben Marsha, Alexander Ben Marsha, Louis Ben Marsha, Shaul Ben Farzane, Reuven Chaim Ben Palaparel, Yitro Ben Avraham, Oshri Ben Doris, Gabi Ben Doris, Elad Ben Doris, David Ben Nesria, Joshua Ben Noach, Alex Ben Noach, Netanel Yosef Ben Avraham, and all of Am Yisrael and all of the righteous Noahites that continue to support the good cause, all the good things that we're doing. Just as a brief update on things that are going on, Baruch Hashem, the big day is coming, the big judgment day is coming. We have Rosh Hashanah coming, and as you all know, one of the main things that our organization has done over the years, and especially this last year and a half, throughout the tragedy and the plague that we're dealing with this coronavirus that is causing the difficulty to grow in people's homes, we're doing with the best that we possibly can to feed as many people as possible. In Eretz Yisrael, there's a lot of poverty, especially among the religious community. Of course, there's poverty in the non-religious community as well. We do not, exclude anyone that comes to us for help. If we could help, we help. Whether religious or not doesn't really steer our decision one way or the other. We help religious, we help not religious, and just as the way of the Torah is supposed to be. And this year we're looking to do something much bigger than we did last year, because the need is bigger and because we simply want to do more to be the vessel of Hashem. So this year we already sent money to buy gift cards from the top kosher supermarket chain in Eretz Yisrael. For anyone who hasn't seen the campaign that we launched, I think it was yesterday or the day before, but there's a campaign that we're starting to try to raise as much money as possible. But since this is the time of the high holidays, this campaign is a little different than the rest of the campaigns that we have during the year, where first and foremost you'll notice that the campaign is not allowing people to donate whatever they want on that specific campaign, but rather it's specific things that you can buy if you want, if you could afford it. One is for people that want to get a personalized video blessing for myself and from Rabbi Ephraim. for whatever issue, whether it's for finding a marriage, a better job, financial success, health issues, having children, whatever issue a person has, they could ask for those blessings, and we'll make them a personalized video. One myself, one from Rabbi Ephraim, with those blessings for them, and we usually try to do it before the holiday, before Rosh Hashanah, to even send it to the person. So start off the holiday with a good feel. That option to get that is $4,000. If a person wants to do that plus to sponsor a lecture, to have to be really the fuel behind a lecture, get all of the merits that the lecture has from all the Baalei Tshuva, all of the people that get closer to Hashem, and so on. Right now, that is, I think, is costing $8,400. And the last option, if somebody wants to sponsor a series, we're about to finish this particular series. We're still far away from finishing the other two, so to get a series in their name, both from myself and from Rabbi Ephraim, it's $50,000. Now, of course, some people are able to afford this, and they jump on it, and they donate the money. And again, the money is not used to build me any new houses or to buy Rabbi Ephraim any new watches or anything. It's we're using all of this money to feed people that need it, specifically right now. Now, since we don't really know ever what people will donate, what people don't donate, the only thing we do know as far as certainty is that poverty is there, and that people don't have money to celebrate the holiday, don't have meat, don't have chicken, don't have even electricity in some cases. I mean, there's a lot of issues out there, and we're dealing with it. So we already took the initiative. We sent almost $120,000 earlier this month to set everything up. That at least is going to feed probably close to around 4,000 people, maybe more. We're trying to do the best we can as far as giving it to the people that need it, not just giving it to whoever wants. But the point is that we have already set up the foundation, that whether people donate or don't donate, at least we know that the mitzvah is being fulfilled. Of course, anyone that wants to be part of this mitzvah, or better yet, anyone that wants to help us achieve our goal, which is really to reach 15,000 people, which will need a lot more money than that, then can obviously contribute to those campaigns. Now again, if you could afford it, great, then you should definitely get one of the options that I just mentioned. If you can't afford it, but you still want to contribute, then you could just simply go to the Be'ezrat Hashem website, or to the Tikkun Abrit website, or our app on iOS or on Android, and just simply donate as much as you can, as much as your pocket and your heart allows you to. Now, for those that are asking, well, how come the prices went up from last year? Last year was $2,600 to get that same blessing, and so on and so forth with the rest of the prices. The prices went up for two reasons. Number one, we're trying to do a lot more this year. We're trying to reach a lot more people this year. Last year we didn't front $120,000. Last year the whole campaign wasn't that much. So that's number one. And number two, just simply the cost of operations of running the organization, even without the campaigns, has gone up. Employees and videos and applications and all types of marketing tools and so on. I mean, just for people to understand that the costs are extremely high. It's not as cheap as a YouTube video would appear to be, where you just make a YouTube video and it's free. It's not free. Each day costs several $1,000s just to keep our head above water. So every day I think it's somewhere close to $3,500 to $4,000 a day. That's where our costs are at this point, between marketing, between the free stuff that we send everybody, the CDs, the this, the that, all the different things that we send. So the costs are higher, but of course the reach is higher also. The last report that we got from YouTube showed that the numbers went up slightly. We're almost at 20 million minutes per month of people watching our videos just on YouTube. We're not including WhatsApp, we're not including Facebook, we're not including everything else. Just YouTube alone. If you put together all of the channels, we're just under, like literally maybe 100,000 under 20 million minutes per month. For anyone that follows our lectures closely knows that that's up from 19.5 million a couple of months ago, and that's up from 5 million a year ago. So, almost 300% growth, Baruch Hashem. We're reaching a lot more people, and there's a lot of stuff that's in the works. A couple of things I'll tell you guys just to get you guys excited for some stuff. Number one, we're launching a lot of big movies now. The short movies keep coming out every week. Every Sunday we have a short movie, but we'll also have a bunch of big movies that are either ready or almost ready. We just released the Rabbi Akiva movie by Rabbi Reuven, both in English and in Hebrew. That was just launched a few days ago. That's almost an hour movie. We have another hour movie almost for me that's ready in Hebrew. We have another one that's actually in English that is probably be ready in about a month and a half from now. But we also have a couple of very big ones about the scary stuff that some of you guys like and all of us need in regards to Chibut HaKever, Gehenom, all that other stuff similar to the Tikkun HaBrit. One of those movies in regards to Chibut HaKever is almost ready. It's possible that we may even launch it during the high holidays, so perhaps even beforehand. We'll try. We'll try to push it beforehand. So there's a lot of big stuff that's in the works. We also have the new flyers coming in within the next couple of weeks with these plastic containers that hold them, these holders. These are going to be coming in and going to be available probably within the next couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, maybe less. We're waiting. It's on the ship right now. We're waiting for it to be released and to arrive at the port. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll give them out as fast as possible. And we're going to try to do whatever we can to make them either as cheap as possible or just simply outright free. Like we did with the CDs recently, because we see that works much faster. So perhaps we'll just give them out for free. For anyone that wants to order them, we'll make a campaign for it. So, Baruch Hashem, there's a lot of good things happening. And the key is that with everything being said, there's even with everything I just said, there's even more stuff that I'm not telling you that will be announced within the next, I would say, 2 months or less. Definitely the biggest announcement we've ever made is coming, B'ezrat Hashem, within the next 2 months or less. So a lot of good stuff happening, and B'ezrat Hashem we'll keep doing it. So for anybody that wants to support, not just an organization that makes videos for entertainment, but rather helps an extraordinary amount of people. From my knowledge, the fastest growing Torah organization in the world right now, percentage-wise, and I actually even think as far as size is concerned, Baruch Hashem, we're reaching much bigger heights than we did in the previous years. And for anyone that wants to be, wants to join the winning team, wants to join a team that's actually Team Hashem, that's actually helping people and not just focusing on lining their own pockets, this is the place to be. The high holidays are a time where every single one of us is going to be judged. How much money we're going to make, whether we're going to stay single or get married, have kids or not, lawsuits, problems, everything is going to be decided over these next couple of weeks. And that's why people make their biggest donations during this time of the year. This is where they don't wait for December 31st like the Gentiles do for tax benefits. This is the time people make the biggest donations, because this is the time where you want those donations to help you spiritually. So for people that know that they have the ability to do it, it's always better to invest into a living Torah rather than just simply another show and tell at your local community where you're investing a large amount of money, but you have really no idea what's going to be with that money, what kind of fruits that money is going to yield you. And when it comes to mitzvot, when it comes to tzedakah, a person has to be selfish. Even though, yes, it's always nice for the whole community to know that you just donated $100,000 to the community, if you know that last year and this year, nothing has changed in the community, nothing has changed in the last few years, you donated a bunch of money, and unfortunately, nothing is really changing. You donated to some organization, but nothing is really changing. Then, of course, you have to consider, should I continue donating to the organization, or should I donate to someone that's actually doing something? And I don't think anybody has been as aggressive in helping people both spiritually and financially, materially, over the last couple of years during this plague. Baruch Hashem, last year we fed 10,000 people. This year is about to close in a couple of weeks. We should be able to reach 25,000 people or more that we've been able to feed throughout this last year. So we're talking about a significant amount of people at a time that is needed. Because even though the rich are getting richer right now, and a lot of people have made a lot of money over the last couple of years in the market and all types of investments and jobs and so on, the people that are not on the upper echelon of society have actually struggled more than ever. So this is the time that we need to help them. So for anyone that wants to contribute is more than welcome to. For anyone that doesn't is also more than welcome to do whatever they want. But sometimes people ask me, well, how come you always mention the same people in the shiur? For refuah shlema or different things. What is it? Because they donate the most? Not necessarily. Sometimes people don't donate and I still mention them. But I can definitely tell you that it's not a secret that if somebody does donate, if somebody does show that they believe in our cause, we're much more inclined to pray for them, to mention them in lectures, and to do everything we possibly can to help them. Not necessarily because of the money, but rather because we're both on the same page. They believe in the cause. The most obnoxious thing in the world is when people tell me that I'm their rabbi or Rabbi Ephraim is their rabbi, and they ask us all the questions, but all the donations go to somebody else because it's better for them financially, for tax reasons. It's better for them because they're used to it. It's better for them because it's a local or whatever other nonsensical cause. So we're doing all the work, and somebody else is where you're investing your money in. It's obviously obnoxious. The point is, we try to help everybody, whether they donate or they don't donate, whether they're a child or they're an adult, whether they're male, female, Jew or non-Jew. We help everybody. But of course, if somebody shows us that they believe in our cause, then it's common sense that we're going to be a lot more inclined to push a little extra to help those people. It's just a reality. People sometimes amaze me at how foolish they are when they make such decisions and they think, oh, listen, I made contributions. How come? Well, you made contributions 3 years ago. That contribution you made, is long and gone. We're continuing to do things. So again, if you continue to ask questions, you continue to benefit from the lectures, you continue to benefit from the material, you continue to do everything we're continuing to give you, but you are relying on the fact that you gave a year ago or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, then unless you haven't made a single penny in 3 years, you should be asking yourself, really, why? Why are you not contributing, and where are you contributing? And it's important for people to be reminded of these common sense types of statements, simply because if you're not reminded, then sometimes a person could use that as an excuse to not do it. So again, we try to help everybody, and we really, really push ourselves beyond the limit to help as many people as possible. But right now, at this time, these high holidays is a time where we're trying to do as much as possible, to reach as many people as possible. Those that want to be on the same boat with us, on the same team, are more than welcome to contribute. Those that don't. I don't exactly look at every donation, who gave and who doesn't. It's just usually the people that do donate the bigger amounts usually let me know, or someone lets me know that happened. So it's but if somebody is not contributing, usually that's also known. Either way, the question is, why do people donate so much money in order to find a good zivug? Why do people donate so much money and pray so much in order to find the right wife or the right husband? Shouldn't you just be able to go into the market and just pick one off like you do vegetables? Shouldn't you just be able to knock on your next door neighbor, say, hey, you have a daughter? Yeah, I want to marry her. Okay, let's go. Shouldn't that be that? Obviously, anyone with common sense knows life doesn't work that way. Life is simply not even close to that. It's very, very hard to find somebody that you have the same ideology with, that you have an attraction to, that there's chemistry that's mutual. It's hard enough, but even more so, it's hard to find all of the necessary tools that a person needs in order to have a successful marriage. People know how to get married, but they don't know how to stay married. And unfortunately, that's why the divorce rates in Western society are over 80%. And unfortunately, they're even deteriorating in the religious world, even though it's nowhere near the non-religious world. The reality is the marriages in the religious world are suffering drastically over these last few years. And of course, again, religious is subjective, meaning the term religious doesn't necessarily always mean the same thing to everybody. According to our Torah, being religious means that you're observing Shabbat, you're observing Taharat Mishpacha, which means it's family purity, kashrut, your kids are going to yeshiva, you're learning Torah every day. You're doing pretty much the best you possibly can with all of the minimums. And even trying to do even a little bit more than just the minimum. That's religious. But unfortunately, in the world today, especially in the United States, where this confusion continues to grow, there is a part of our religious community that calls themselves modern Orthodox. Now, of course, the Orthodox stands for the religiosity. The modern stands for, as representing their status of today, being up to date. Now, again, if being up to date was just simply based on the way people communicate, whether they're using text messages or writing letters, if perhaps it's the clothes is not necessarily as it was in previous years, then modern Orthodox wouldn't even be called modern Orthodox. It would just be Orthodox. But the reality is modern Orthodox does not mean that. Modern Orthodox is modernizing the rules. And some of the rules that are being modernized are literally turning modern Orthodox into reform. Where you have a recent statistic that came out somewhere around 4 years ago, maybe less, by somebody that did research on the modern Orthodox community. And according to his statistics, and he's not a biased party of any kind, he's for the modern Orthodox community, he reported the numbers. And part of his numbers was that nearly half of the women of the modern Orthodox community are not keeping family purity rules. They're not going to the mikveh. Now, this may not seem like a big deal to a non-Jew. This may not seem like a big deal to a secular Jew. This may not seem like a big deal to even a modern Orthodox Jew. But to a Jew that's familiar with the Torah and what it's supposed to be, this is, in essence, one of the primary differences between us, the religious, Haredi, Hasidish, Orthodox, whatever you want to call it, and Reform, and Christianity, and the rest of the world. If your wife or wife-to-be does not go to the mikveh, you are not religious. Like, you may be a secular person that is keeping Shabbat. You may be a secular person that's even learning Torah. But if your wife does not go to the mikveh every month, of course, she has to if she still gets her period. If she doesn't, because she's already aged out, she's already older and so on, that's obviously a different story. She just has to go one last time in her life and finished. But if she's still young, she still gets our period, she has to go to the mikveh. If your wife does not go to the mikveh, and you're Jewish, and she's Jewish, and she doesn't go to the mikveh, you're not religious. Don't think for a moment that you can actually, be considered Orthodox in any way. You can call yourself whatever you want. You can call yourself modern Orthodox, you can call yourself Pikachu, you can call yourself X-Men, you can call yourself the Incredible Hulk, call yourself even Joe Biden if you want. Call yourself whatever you want. But if your wife does not go to the mikveh, you're not religious. Why? Because as long as she does not go to the mikveh, you're not allowed to touch her. And I don't just mean you're not allowed to touch her intimately. You're not allowed to even sleep in the same bed. You're not allowed to hold hands. Simply no affection whatsoever. You have to treat her as if she simply is a do not touch. She's like a nuclear facility. Don't enter. Don't touch. Don't get close. And perhaps don't even look. That's really what it is. If you have a woman that refuses to go to the mikveh, this is actually one of the main things that a bet din looks like when there's an issue when the husband wants to get a divorce or the wife wants to get a divorce. Usually, if let's say the husband or the wife, one is more religious than the other, that's not necessarily enough of a reason to get divorced. If as long as they let the other person stay religious and so on, usually the bet din will tell you to stay married and just work on it. Get them up to date, perhaps over time, be gentle and so on. Well, what if she doesn't want to keep Shabbat? Even though she doesn't want to keep Shabbat, you stay married to her. What if she doesn't want to keep, she wants to go to the movies? Even though she wants to go to the movies, you stay married. It's not enough of a reason for you to go to get a divorce. But if she doesn't want to go to the mikveh, or if he does not allow her to go to the mikveh or allow her to keep talat mishpacha, meaning he wants to be like some lion that wants to be with his wife, 75 days a week, automatically, without questions asked, the bet din says, finished. It's the end of the marriage. Why? Without tarat mishpacha, without family purity, there is no sanctity in the marriage. So when the statistics came out from the modern Orthodox community that showed that nearly half are not going to the mikveh, you would expect the rabbis, the Goldbergs of the world, and the other people of the modern Orthodox community to literally just go in the streets, rip their clothes, wear sacks, and start crying over their communities. That's, in reality, if you're a leader of 1,000 families, 2,000 families in a community, and you know that half of your community doesn't go to the mikveh, it's such a disaster that you really should be crying every single day. But nothing really happened. I'm not saying that they're advocating for people not to go to the mikveh. I'm not saying they should tell people don't go, but there's not enough being done because not enough people know the sanctity of family purity. Not enough people know the magnitude of this mitzvah. Now we just, Baruch Hashem, released a book. We published a book. Rav Ephraim's mother, the Rabbanit Shulamit Kachlon, who has been a Balanit for almost 40 years, just published a book from with our organization backing it and so on in Hebrew, and B'ezrat Hashem will translate it to English as time within time. But it's a beautiful book. It's going to be available on our website for free as far as the digital copy. The hard copy are in Israel right now. We're giving out 3,000 copies for free. They're a little expensive, but Baruch Hashem, we're doing the best we can. And we're going to get some copies in the United States as well to give out for free. But that may take a little time. Perhaps maybe the next few weeks I'll get some. Either way, again, they're only in Hebrew for now. But the point is that this book is, if we printed out 30,000, they would literally be distributed in a day. Because people are going to love this book, number one. And honestly, if I was a woman and I read the book, I want to start keeping Talat Mishpacha as a man already. That's how enticing the book is, because it's giving personal experience of what she has seen over the last 40 years from this 40 years of experience with people, and also people People actually wrote their personal stories that we included in the book, different miracles they had, experiences, and so on in the book. It's a fantastic book, Baruch Hashem, and this just came out last week. And we haven't released it yet on the website. I think it's going to be probably in the next couple of days or so. So either way, this is one of the many projects that the organization has behind the scenes. But nonetheless, when a woman understands the significance of family purity, she knows that this is really what distinguishes us from the rest of the nations. When a woman doesn't know the significance of this, or a man doesn't know the significance of this, then their marriage is really no different than simply anybody else in the world. Anybody else, not Jew, non-Jew, anyone else, even two cows. Their marriage is not really different than anybody else. And one of the reasons why people don't know the significance of this is because they don't know what to look for in a woman. They don't know what to look for in a marriage. Unfortunately, the reasons why people get married today are usually the wrong reasons. It's materialism, physicality, and in essence, what they, as the Chazon Ish famously said, what they call love, we call karet, meaning a forbidden crime, because they think that their love is really love, but in reality it's lust. And that's why many times people end up getting married and shortly thereafter get divorced and just have another bad experience in their life, which leads to a lot of horrible things. Now, of course, not all marriages that start off the right way end up staying the right way. But here the Gaon Vilna is going to give us a little bit more insight than he did last week about what is the things you need to look for in a wife. What is the things you need to look for in a wife? What is it that you need to know? Does she have to be, Malkat Yofi, the beauty queen? Does she have to be the smartest person on the planet? Does she have to be extremely rich? Does she have to be, what does she have to be? How do I decide that this woman is going to be, the good wife? Now, to get married, I already told you, you need two main things. Two main things you need to in order to get married. One, there has to be some form of attraction between the two of you. You cannot be one of these people that thinks that they're overly righteous, that you don't need to look at her and she doesn't need to look at you and you'll still get married. That's only in your dreams and perhaps even your nightmares. In reality, you have to be attracted to each other. Now, you don't have to necessarily think of each other as the most beautiful thing that ever walked the face of the earth, but there has to be attraction. Why? Because when there is an attraction, adultery happens. When there is an attraction, the marriage ends up failing. So there has to be some form of attraction and a serious attraction. Not like, he's okay for like a human. No, like there has to be attraction. Same thing with her. Oh yeah, I can see that God created her. Not one of those. You have to be attracted to the people. And again, as much as we make the issue humorous, to bring light a little bit to the issue, it's a reality. People that get married without having attraction are almost guaranteed to get a divorce unless they become like the biggest tzaddikim in the world, and even then there's an issue. And sometimes you'll see, even in a religious world, you'll see people, telling their kids, listen, you should marry her, you should marry him. Well, I don't like her. Well, you don't even know how to like her. No, I mean, I don't find her attractive. Okay, you don't find her attractive, so maybe she doesn't find you attractive. So both of you think that you're both garbage pail kids, but either way, you don't need to be attracted to each other in order to be married. Wrong. You have to be attracted to each other. You have to be attracted to each other even more so. You cannot be disgusted by each other, and which happens even with beautiful people. This is not a matter of like, oh, he's beautiful and therefore he's marriage material. She's beautiful and therefore she's marriage material. No, there has to be an attraction between the two people, and for everybody there's a mate. Everybody can find somebody that they're attracted to. Now, again, when people push people to get married, and sometimes I've seen this with my own eyes, where you'll have somebody being pushed to get married to somebody because he's at a certain age, or he comes from a certain family, or he's in a certain community, and there's some type of outside pressure, and they tell him to marry some girl that he's not attracted to. And he comes to them and says, listen, I'm not attracted to them. And what do? Listen, talk to the Rebbe. And they send him to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe sometimes is not really a Rebbe, other than having the title. Tells him, listen, attraction, no attraction, don't worry. Once you're with her, it's all the same, you'll be happy. Now, he may be talking about it from his perspective. He may be already at a different stage in his life, and maybe for him it's that. But sometimes it's not because of that. Sometimes he just doesn't really care enough from the perspective of a different person. He just tells him whatever comes out. And the people end up getting married, and shortly thereafter getting divorced. And then it's much more difficult to get married again. And even more so, it's much more difficult for someone that has divorce on their record, on their life record. It's much more difficult for someone that's divorced to stay married. Why? Because divorce throughout all of history has always been this taboo that no one really ever wants to be a part of. But once somebody gets divorced once, it's much easier for them to get a divorce a second time, and perhaps even a third. And unfortunately, sometimes people start counting their divorces in two hands. Every three months, he has a new wife. Every 6 months, she has a new husband. Oh no, I didn't get along with him. Oh no, I didn't get along with her. Okay, maybe you should stay alone. It may be better for you than completely torture the community. But nonetheless, the reality is, Rabotai, is that people don't want to stay alone. People want to be with somebody. And in order to be with somebody, we need to know what we're looking for. So again, first and foremost, there has to be some type of attraction. But that is not enough. The second thing that is more important than attraction itself is to have the same ideology. Meaning, you need to want the same things overall. Look at the world, have a perspective on the world in the same perspective. Now, you don't have to necessarily agree on every single thing, but your overall ideology needs to be the same. If it's not, it's only a matter of time before you get divorced or simply live a miserable life. Why? Because even if she's the most beautiful thing that ever walked the face of the earth in your eyes, but her ideology is secular and you are religious. Her ideology is materialism and you are into the Torah. Her ideology is to go hiking and you are scared of walking. Needless to say, hiking. You're not going to make a very good couple. You're not going to make a very good couple. Now again, as far as the lust aspect of it, that will have a certain amount of joy for a certain amount of time, but that is going to be temporary. Before she decides that you're too much, or you decide that she's too little, or vice versa, and it ends up being simply a disaster. So when people get married to another person and tell me, listen, Rabbi, she's a really nice person, but she's not observant yet. He's a really nice guy, but he doesn't keep Shabbos yet. What do you think? I don't think. This is not an option. This is not an option. If they're not in the same, relatively speaking, level as you as far as religiosity, they're not an option. If you are keeping Shabbat, keeping Torah, keeping mitzvot, and they're not, they're simply not an option, even if they're the most beautiful person in the world, and they tell you, I'm going to keep once we get married. It's still not an option. Let them keep, and then perhaps you can start dating them a few times and see if they're marriage material. But as long as you don't have the same ideology, you practically are giving yourself a guarantee that your marriage will be a nightmare in the best case scenario. In the best case scenario. Now, of course, many people have a nightmare relationship and they stay married. But that's not exactly the ideal situation. The goal is to get married and to continue growing that love that you have for your spouse with every single day that you're together, with every single year that you're celebrating an anniversary, with every single birthday, with every single child, with every single, turn of events that you guys go through together. That's really the goal, for the love to grow, not for the love to peak on your first 1 or 2 years, and then it just continues to deteriorate. It's the opposite. In the Torah world, your love has to increase. And when people don't understand how to be married, what to look for, what to have, how to not just get married but stay married, what ends up happening is that, again, either it's a nightmare relationship or it just leads to a divorce, which is also a nightmare relationship. It's just that you don't have any of the benefits. So the Gaon of Vilna is told us time and time again, obviously through this letter that he's writing his wife and his family, that the necessity for education for the kids, a certain type of education for the girls, certain type of education for the boys, how to make the Torah the priority, both in monetary issues as well as in priority as far as the time we spend on it. Meaning, spend the most amount of money. Our number one asset should be our Torah. That means giving tzedakah. That means buying the books that we want and we need that are going to teach us to be better Jews. That means to different mitzvot that we have. We have the big mitzvot coming up here in a high holiday. You have a Sukkot. Sukkot is a time where you should look forward to spending a lot of money to build a beautiful sukkah, to get a great set of a lulav and a trog and the four arba minim. You have all of these different things that you should look forward to spending a lot of money on getting good stuff. Not look forward to getting a discount. People that look to get a discount on their mitzvot, unfortunately, are bringing a tragedy to their life. Not only because they're showing themselves and their family that they care less about the mitzvot, or at least they don't care as much about the mitzvot as they do about money, so that's already terrible education. But even more so, it's one of the things that it says in this week's Parashat Ki Tavo, is that one of the greatest reasons of why Hashem brings these asonot, these tragedies among Am Yisrael, is because we did not serve him with happiness. We didn't serve him with happiness. So one of the ways is happiness doesn't mean that you're breakdancing like some Breslov Chassid in the middle of the street. Happiness means that when it comes to the mitzvot, you are looking forward to exerting all effort and resources on those mitzvot. When a person does the mitzvot, when he builds his sukkah, or has it built with excitement, when he buys his lulav and his etrog and everything else with excitement, and he's not fighting with the seller. Oh, come on, maybe you can give it for $20 less, or this or that. He's not looking for discounts. Why? I'm excited. This is the best you have. Okay, this is the best I can afford. Okay, great. Fantastic. The more I spend on it, the more Hashem's going to give me back anyway. So what's the point of negotiating? So when a person does the mitzvot with such a mentality, they are not only educating their neshama, but they're also educating their household. Now, the Gaon of Vilna continues here, where last week he told us about how the reason why women go to heaven, even though they don't learn Torah or have the obligation to learn Torah as much as men do, even though this generation, it seems like sometimes there are more women learning Torah than men. But nonetheless, as the Gemara in Masechet Sotah, page 21, says that a woman goes to heaven because she's ezer kenegdo, she's helpful to her husband. How is she helpful? By making sure that her husband and her children go to learn Torah, and she waits for them when they come home. Even if he's coming home from a shiur at 1 o'clock in the morning, she's waiting for him. Even though her kids are going to come home at 5, 6 o'clock at night, she's waiting for them, excited to see them. Tell me what happened in class today. Tell me what the Rabbanit said. Tell me what the rabbi said. She's excited to see how their Torah life is going. And she's showing them interest. She's showing them support. She's making the Torah a priority in her life. For that, she will go to heaven. Why? Because all of the mitzvot that they do, all of the Torah that they learn, is going to be her Torah. It's going to be her Torah. And in fact, she'll even get a bigger reward than they do. And for that, a woman goes to heaven. That's what the Gemara says in Masechet Brachot, page 17a. And now the Gaon Vilna continues, and he brings a source. He brings a source of what is a good woman. Because sending your kids to a yeshiva, sending your husband to a shiur Torah, definitely is a good thing to do. It's a good act, but doesn't necessarily make you a good woman. Why? Because sometimes you'll have a woman, and I've had this happen a few times, where a woman will tell me, listen, Rabbi, I think that what Rachel, the wife of Rabbi Akiva, did, I'm willing to do the same thing. If I send my husband to yeshiva, not for 25 years, I send him there for the rest of his life, you think I'll get a reward? You think I'll get the same reward she got? Answer, no. Why no? You are looking at it from the perspective of sending your husband to the yeshiva to go learn Torah. Why? Because you can't stand him. So you figure, let me go send him to yeshiva. I don't have to deal with his headache anymore. I don't have to deal with his smell anymore. I don't have to deal with his annoying attitude anymore. I don't have to look at his face anymore. And on top of it, I'm going to be like Rabbi Akiva's wife, right? You don't get a merit for that at all, actually. Rabbi Akiva's wife, Rachel loved Rabbi Akiva. In fact, she suffered tremendously. And so did Rabbi Akiva. He suffered tremendously from the emotional anguish of not being with each other for all of those years. They loved each other tremendously. They spent some time together before he eventually left to go to the yeshiva for 24 years. But she loved him dearly. She thought about him every day. He thought about her every day. And because they loved each other, they did it. They didn't get rid of each other. They did this. They made the investment in each other. They made the investment in the Torah for the sake of their love. So that's why the crown of the oral Torah rests on the head of Rachel, the wife of Rabbi Akiva. Because despite her love, she made the sacrifice and sent her husband to go learn Torah. If you are sending your husband, or your kids to Torah just because you want them out of your face so you can go to the mall, that's not exactly makes you such a tzaddiket. Let's be realistic. So again, the part that we talked about last week of sending the kids and the husband to a shiur Torah to learn Torah, it's good. It's good. There's no question about it. It's a good thing, but it doesn't make the wife a good wife. It doesn't make the mother a good mother. What makes them a good wife? This part that we're going to talk about today. Comes the Gaon Vilna and he brings a source. V'amru Chazal, אין לך אישה כשרה בנשים, אלא שעושה רצון בעלה. וכל שכן, שאני כותב לך דברי אלוקים חיים, ובטוח שאני שתעשי ככל אשר כתבתי. אף על פי כן באתי להזהירך באזהרה כפולה, שלא תשני דבר מכל אשר כתבתי. Here in this couple of lines, the Gaon Vilna throws an atomic bomb to all of the ladies of Klal Yisrael, all of the ladies of the world, quite frankly, saying the following. Our sages, in Tana Devei Eliyahu Rabbah, chapter 9, say, the most proper wife, the most kosher wife among all the women is the one that does her husband's will. That's what our sages say, and that's the source that the Gaon Vilna is bringing now to tell us what's a good wife. Is a good wife someone that sends you to go learn Torah? That's a good act. That's a good act. It's a good thing to do, but it doesn't make her a good wife. Why? Because she may be sending you over there because she doesn't want to see your face. She may be sending you over there because she's doing whatever else she's doing that Hashem only knows. That's a good act to do because you're learning Torah. But to be a good wife, no. To be a good wife, you have to be politically incorrect in your understanding of reality. Why? In today's reality of political correctness, to be a good wife means you're the power woman. You're the one that's bringing in the dough. You're the one that is telling everybody what you feel. You're a feminist, you're a communist, you're a leftist, you're every ist, and Hashem Yishmor v'yatzil from such ists. Today's so-called good wives are married to other wives, wife to wife. That's the good wives of today. That's what people think good wife is. Good wife they present as a good, strong woman, a woman that tells her husband what to do. She doesn't know what he's doing. He's like a child. I'm going to tell him what to do. He doesn't know where to go. I'm going to tell him where to go. He doesn't know how to make. I'm going to tell him how to make. That's what people think is a good wife. Gaon Vilna was called a Gaon. A Gaon meaning that the sages have an understanding that his genius was in the level of the Tanaim that lived at the time of the Gemara. Some say the Rishonim that lived 500 years before him or 700 years before him. But either way, his genius was not of this world. And he says the most kosher wife among all the women is the one that does her husband's will. That's how you know she's a kosher wife. That's how you know. Now, of course, in today's world, to get someone, just this statement alone, you're asking for trouble. Why? Because they think, oh, so what? So I'm going to do everything he says? So what? He could just do whatever he wants? So what? He's going to go out with his friends and I'm just going to sit there like some loser at the house waiting for him, being like some baby oven, doing nothing all day? No, we're not saying that. If you married somebody like that, you made the mistake, not him. If you married somebody that goes, hangs out with his friends and plays cards and is pretty much a loser and part of the loser society, then you made the mistake, not him. He married a good woman that's unfortunately stupid for marrying such a person like him. We're not saying to sit home and do nothing and while he gallivants around the town and goes clubbing like a 15-year-old loser. No, we're not saying that at all. At the same token, we're also not saying that you're going to start yelling at him and tell him what to do every 2 seconds and call the shots on everything and he has to be like some puppy. That's also what we're not saying. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, the understanding of what a good wife is almost like a lost wisdom in the world. Both the men and the women of this generation simply do not know what it is, especially in Western society. I believe that the knowledge still exists to some extent in the East, in third world countries, places that there's a lot of poverty. But in the richer communities, it's almost non-existent. Why? Because today's world, instead of the wife trying to be the helping hand of the husband, today the wife is competing with the husband, competing for attention, competing for recognition, competing for all types of things. And Hashem only knows how horrible this curse we have in the world called feminism, which we discussed briefly last week, as I told you. Feminism comes from the Torah itself. The first wife that was designated to be a wife of Adam HaRishon, was a feminist, the ultimate feminist, the mother of all feminists, the wife of the Satan himself that is so powerful and lethal and impure, we're not even going to say her name. She was the first wife that was designated for Adam HaRishon, but she did not want to be Ezer Kenegdo. She didn't want to be the helping hand that's going to help her husband grow. She wanted her own stage. And she is the mother of all feminists, hence the reason why the real, authentic, and completely impure feminists of the world discuss her all the time. There are literally lectures, videos, books written about the Satan's wife and how great she is in the feminist ideology. That's their idol. That's their God. That's their everything. And to us, it's the most impure creature on planet Earth. It's called a Sitra Achra. So here, we know that feminism is not just against the Torah. It's antithetical to the Torah. It's literally the opposite of Torah. And unfortunately today, we have people that think of themselves as religious Jews, but yet she's feminist. I'm an Orthodox Jew, but I'm feminist. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is either you're an idiot and you don't know what feminism is, and yet call yourself a feminist, or you're an idiot and you don't know what Judaism is, and you call yourself an Orthodox Jew. Why? You cannot be both. You cannot be an Orthodox Jewish feminist. Not possible. Simply not possible. It's like saying I am an atheist believer. It's not even an oxymoron. It's just simply moronic. But yet, you find yourself in practically every community. There's always some thorn sticking out and trying to recruit as many, like a missionary, women as possible. And most often, you'll find the ones that decide that they like feminism are the ones that are either divorced or on the way to divorce. It's either divorce or divorce in the making. And who is the one that's causing her to be divorced in the making? Her feminist friends. Oh, you shouldn't let him talk to you that way. What, you telling me you're home all day while he's working? Yeah, well, what else do you want me to do? Well, I don't know. Maybe you should be working and he should be home taking care of the kids. And they start putting all types of filthy thoughts in a young girl's head. Or even an older one. Why are you home? Why are you here? Why is he this? Why didn't he show you? Why didn't he this? Why didn't he that? And then you have divorce. And all you have left is the gatherings that you meet with a bunch of other miserable divorced women for the rest of your life until some other poor fella falls into your trap. Because so long as you're a feminist, you are by far the most dangerous woman in society that's a human being. But unfortunately, you have many people in the Orthodox world that call themselves feminist. Again, like I said, either because they don't know what feminism is or because they don't know what Judaism is. Because you cannot be a Jewish feminist. It's simply not possible. Simply not possible. I mean, an Orthodox religious Jew, a feminist. Now, one of the things that the feminists look for is freedom. Freedom from anybody telling them what to do. I'll do it because I want to do it. I'll do it when I feel like doing it. I'll do it if it's good for me. Comes the Gaon, Vilna, and says, you're not a kosher wife. Simple. You want to do it if it's good for you. You want to do it when it meets your requirements. You want to do it when you feel like doing it. You want to do whatever you want to do. No problem. You're just not a kosher wife. You're like, I don't know, pig. Sorry, it's kosher, not kosher. Whether it's not kosher cow or a pig, it's the same thing. So, when it comes to spirituality as a wife, you may be a very nice person. You may be generous, you may be beautiful, you may be smart, you may be whatever else. But as far as a Jewish wife, not kosher. We'll call you pig quality kosher. Why? Because you don't want to be married. You don't actually want to be married. You like the idea of marriage, but you don't want to be married. You want to be independent. But with somebody to wait for you and listen to all your fairy tales. Listen to all your ideas. Listen to all the talk that you have. Oh, I love him. He lets me talk. He has no other choice, the poor guy. He has no other choice. And a lot of the craziest ideas that you hear in society today come from these types of people, where you have literally women being put on stages at the most famous institutions, like for example TED. TED is by far the most famous place where people speak from all walks of life, and you see that their talks get millions and millions of views of all people and so on and so forth. You have feminist women going on stage, being given a stage after the people know what they're going to talk about. People actually attend it, people actually watch it, and listen to these idiots talk to you about feminist ideas that are literally not very different than Nazi Germany. Not very different than what you would hear in a mental institution. One particular woman would tell you that you are violating the baby's rights. Why are you violating the baby's rights? You didn't ask the baby for permission before you undressed the baby to put a new diaper on it. And they give this woman airtime on countless news networks to tell them about how she has a whole organization, Rachmana litzlan, a whole organization fighting for baby rights, that parents need to ask the babies for permission before they change the diapers. Yeah, the baby. I'm not talking about like a 9-year-old kid. I'm talking about a toddler that was born yesterday. I'm talking about someone who doesn't know how to talk. You violated its rights. You violated its rights. Or perhaps the baby is traumatized. Why is the baby traumatized? Because it was adopted. Wait, does the baby know it was adopted? Does the baby know it was adopted? Maybe when it was adopted, for whatever baby feelings are, yeah, but if the baby is now like 10, 15 years old, and during that whole 10, 15 years, all that baby saw, really all that child saw, is this set of parents that were decent to it, fed it, bathed it, give it a roof over its shoulders, over its head, got everything from these parents. Wait, you're telling me that this baby is still traumatized because it was adopted as a baby? And now the baby wants to sue the parents, not the ones that abandoned it, the ones that adopted it. There is literally no greater ungrateful person on planet Earth than such a person. For someone to take a kid is a huge responsibility financially and everything else. But you have literally feminist ideology telling children that were adopted as children, as toddlers, to sue their parents, their adoptive parents, for not asking them for permission, for not returning them to their parents that didn't want them in the first place, and all types of crazy things. And literally the ideas coming from feminists are just literally getting worse and worse by the day. And yet society not only accepts them, just like they accept homosexuality and its filth, where they're teaching homosexuality in kindergartens to the extent where they're bringing mentally sick people that call themselves transvestites to go teach a bunch of children, 4 or 5 years old, about how no one should tell you that you are a boy if you want to be a girl. No one should decide for you that you are a girl if you feel like you're a boy inside. And if you don't know which one you are, that's good too. This is literally child abuse. This is child abuse. But it's not just being funded and pushed by the homosexual psychos. It's also the feminists. Because it's the same type of crazy ideology that's Sodom and Gomorrah. And when you as a Jewish woman that wants to be a kosher Jewish woman think that you could have anything to do with feminism in your life, then simply take the kosher and throw it in the garbage. Why? The Gaon Vilna says, the kosherest woman is the one who does the will of her husband. Doesn't mean that he's going to step on her and beat her and she's going to sit there like some doll. No. Means you do everything you possibly can to do the will of your husband. So much so that you learn how to use your strengths, the gifts that Hashem gave you, whatever they may be, whether it's beauty or intellect or ability to cook or ability to make money or ability to do whatever it is that Hashem gave you as a gift, you use those gifts that Hashem gave you to help your husband get closer to Hashem, to help your husband be a better husband, to help your husband in any way you can, so you actually are going to be doing his will. He may not necessarily always know that it's his will, as we'll find out from the Rambam in a moment, about how sometimes a person doesn't really know what their will is, but yet it is their will, but they only know it after the fact. But nonetheless, a woman needs to know her role in the world is not to be independent. Her role in the world is not to be some girl that's gallivanting around town and parking at different people's houses from time to time. That's not a kosher woman. A kosher woman, says Eliyahu Navi. That's what Tana Deve Eliyahu is. Eliyahu Navi. And that's who the Gaon Vilna is quoting. Eliyahu Navi says, a kosher woman, she is the one that does the will of a husband. Now, of course, if a person understands this particular section alone, we're already in a good place. We're already in a good place. Why? Because then they're going to understand the story that's in the Gemara Masechet Nedarim, page 66b, where there was a shidduch, a marriage between two people, but as you would have it like today, people coming from two different backgrounds, but have similar interests, and are figuring that we'll work out the details over time. And they get married. The guy is from Babylon, and the girl is from Israel. Now, their ability to communicate is limited. Why? They speak two different languages. They have different accents. They have different words that they use. So the Gemara says that this Babylonian man and this woman in Eretz Yisrael get married, and they have a little bit of difficulties. Where when the guy asks her, cook me a couple of lentils. It's like saying, honey, can you make me something small? Now, of course, if a guy tells you, can you make me something small, he doesn't really mean make him, a little Jolly Rancher. He's not asking you for a little candy. Make you something small means make me something that doesn't require 6 hours of cooking. But this young girl doesn't really understand. She's young. She doesn't understand. She said, my husband said, make me 2 lentils. She literally made him 2 lentils. Now, call her stupid, call her naive, whatever you want to call her. Let's see what the Torah calls her. She makes him, he says 2 lentils, she makes him 2 lentils. Because she doesn't understand that what he's doing, it's like a figure of speech. It's like saying, cook me something small. She brings him plate with 2 lentils. He gets upset. No, come on, I'm hungry. I learned all day, I worked all day. This is what you have? You said 2 lentils. The guy's like, oh, what did I marry over here? Okay, I got to take this into consideration. She's a, tomato head. I have to communicate better. Okay. The next day, this Babylonian man says to her, cook me a full measure. Just like saying, honey, I'm starving. Cook me a ton. Just bring me the whole cow on the table. I'm starving. Now, in reality, smart person knows he's hungry. I'm going to cook him something heavier. Something perhaps with some carbs. Something with some meat. Something. Not going to cook him a little toast with some cheese on it. I'm going to make him something. Okay, Baruch Hashem. This girl didn't understand that it's a figure of speech. So he said, cook me a full measure. She literally took the whole sack of food that they had and cooked the whole thing. And she brought him the pots. And he is looking at it, it's like, you just spent all of our money for no reason. So wait, I can't eat all this stuff. And there's no refrigerators in those days. I can't preserve all this stuff. It's a complete waste. One of the most annoying things in the world is when things go to waste. And a person that's a Torah scholar, even more so. The Gemara says that a Torah scholar has to love his money. Not love his money because of materialism, but rather because he loves his time. He knows that if he's spending time making money, he can't learn Torah. So whatever money he's spending, he wants to make sure it's spent the right way and it's not being destroyed for no reason. That's why there's actually a mitzvah of bal tashchit, that you're not allowed to just simply destroy or waste things. It's forbidden according to the Torah. Now the point is here, this guy sees his beautiful Israeli wife a little bit of a pumpkin head. Why? He said, make me 2 lentils. She literally gave him 2 lentils. He said, make me a ton of stuff. She literally gave him a ton of beans. What is he going to do with a ton of beans? So now he's upset. He's upset. But still, what are you going to do? So he says to her, go bring me 2 buzzini. 2 buzzini. Which in the Ramah says means 2 melons. Some Chachamim say it means 2 big vegetables. But to her, in her language and her accent, buzzini means 2 candles. 2 candles. Now, she thinks he wants candles. Maybe he wants to be romantic. Maybe he wants to sell it. Who knows what he wants? She brings him 2 candles. He is waiting for 2 melons. This pumpkin head brings him 2 candles, and now he's at it. No, come on already. Come on already, he's had it. He said, Yalla, take it to the bava. Meaning, go break it on the door. Bava means doorway. Like the Gemara has 3 different tractates. Bava Kama, Bava Batra, Bava Metzia. These are all doorways. Doorways to different specific issues. So to him it means just take it out of here. Throw this out of the house. Who needs these stupid candles? That's in essence the expression he's saying. But this poor girl, she says, go break it on Bava? Okay, so she goes, and it happens to be that Bava, one of the Gdolei Ador, Bava ben Buta, he's in the Bet Midrash that her husband's learning. She takes the 2 candles, pach, on his head. Why? He said, my husband said, go break the candles on Bava. So that's what she understood. Now, if it were you or me and some young girl from Israel broke 2 candles on our head, perhaps the next time people would see us would be in a newspaper. Perhaps next time when people see us would be in some type of mental institution. But Bava ben Buta was one of the Gdolei Ador. In fact, the Gemara in Masechet Bava Batra, page 3b, says that Bava Buta was the giant sage that told Holdus, the Rasha Holdus, to fix the Bet HaMikdash, the second Bet HaMikdash. He was a tyrant. He killed a lot of sages, and he wanted to make up, make himself look better after killing so many of the Chachamim, literally almost killing all of the Chachamim. He came to Bava ben Buta, and asked him for guidance. He said, if you want to look better in the eyes of the Jewish people after you killed so many Chachamim, you're saying you want to do tshuva, use all your strength and your ability to build to fix the Bet HaMikdash. And the Gemara says that someone that didn't see the beauty of the Bet HaMikdash after Holdus rebuilt it, after he fixed it, has never seen beauty before. Some say it was even more beautiful than the Bet HaMikdash that Shlomo HaMelech built. That's how beautiful it was. He was a genius builder. Wicked, but nonetheless genius builder. So Bava ben Buta, he's the sage that told him to go do it. And he was one of the Gdolei Ador. and he was in a bet midrash as this young girl's husband, doing some type of judgment on going over some laws, and all of a sudden this young girl takes two big candles and trach on his head. Now Baba Ben Buta looks at her. She almost broke his head. Obviously people just saw this. People want to jump on her and make sure that she doesn't see the light of day, but he stops everyone and says, "My dear daughter, why did you do what you did? Why did you break the candles over Bava's head?" And she says to him 3 words. Kach tzivani ba'ali. This is what my husband commanded me to do. Now, again, if we were Baba Ben Buta, we tell her, "Oh, your husband told you this. Show me who your husband is, and then send him a few visitors." But Baba Ben Buta, what does he do? He says, you did the will of your husband. Surely you're going to be blessed with children just like Baba Ben Buta. Meaning, because you're such a kosher woman that's doing the will of her husband, surely that is going to bring holiness to the world, and your children are going to be just like me. Gdolei Adot, giant chachamim, holy people. Why? From holy people comes holy people. From holy marriage comes holy people. You are doing the will of your husband, even though the will of your husband perhaps doesn't make sense to other people, perhaps is wrong, but you did the will of your husband. Ashrech, praiseworthy. You're praiseworthy. That's what the Torah, that's what the living Torah, Baba Ben Buta, calls this woman. Now, of course, don't try this at home and start breaking stuff on big rabbis' heads. But nonetheless, this is how a kosher woman is defined in the eyes of the Torah. One that is doing the will of her husband. One that's doing the will of her husband. One that's looking for constant ways to help her husband reach his goals. Not one that's looking to build a stage for herself. Now, unfortunately, sometimes you have husbands that are metumtamim, stupid husbands, that they push their wives to go on stage. They push their wives to go do a bunch of different things that they're not supposed to. And of course, a smart woman should simply tell the husband, "You married the wrong lady. I'm looking to be a kosher woman, not some prutza. No, why don't you go sing? Sing? Doesn't the Torah, our sages teach us, the kol ha'isha erva, the voice of woman is like nakedness? No, maybe you could just sing to just women. Why? Well, you have a good voice. Okay, sing to the kids and to me. What do you have to express your talent? I'm sure you have other talents. But unfortunately, many times, people think the wrong way. Figure, if she sings, she'll build a crowd, she'll make some money, we'll be able to move to a different community with a bigger house and a bigger things and a smaller olam haba, if it has anything at all. Now, Rabotai, the Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit has a bunch of different stories about one of the greatest sages that ever lived, named Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was so holy that the Gemara says that the entire world eats bishvil Chanina bni. Through Chanina, my son. Comes the Baal Shem Tov and says, see, it doesn't say that the entire world eats because of Chanina, but rather bishvil Chanina. Why bishvil Chanina? The Baal Shem Tov says, through the vessel of sustenance that Chanina is bringing to the world because of his holiness, he doesn't want it for himself. He's distributing it to the rest of the world. And that's, in the Kabbalistic world, talks about the sanctity of certain people and certain actions, and how it brings a sustenance to a person. And the holiest people that bring the most sustenance to the world usually don't want the sustenance for themselves. Hence the reason why the Gemara says that Hanina eats kruvim, with carobs. Carobs he eats, that's all he eats. Complete poverty. But the rest of the world gets their sustenance because of Rabbi Hanina. Now one day, the poverty crossed the line, and the wife, the tzaddiket, the righteous wife of Rabbi Hanina, surely every righteous man has a righteous woman next to him. Can't do it alone. You need somebody to support you. You need somebody to push you. You need somebody to be there with you. And the righteous wife of Rabbi Hanina introduces herself to the world through this story, where she tells Rabbi Hanina, go tell your boss to feed you. Who's the boss? Hashem. So comes Rabbi Hanina. His wife is asking for parnasah. Okay, no problem. She never asked before. It's the first time she ever asked for parnasah. Okay. So he leaves the shtender, he leaves his Torah, goes into the field, prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a miracle. A golden leg, a big table has 4 legs. Some say that this particular table had 3 legs. Either way, it doesn't really make much of a difference. One of those legs comes down from Shamayim. Now where is this table? This is a table of Olam Haba. The table of Olam Haba, complete gold. One of the legs of the table come down gently and is given to Rabbi Hanina. Give it to Rabbi Hanina. He is not just having parnasah. He's the richest man of the land. He brings this to the local jeweler. Says, Rabbi Hanina, you're the richest man in the world. Where'd you get this from? Says, my boss gave it to me. You think I can buy some groceries with it? He says, please, give me the honor. I'll sell it for you, whatever you want. Here's a few $1,000. Go buy whatever you want. And when I sell it for you, I'll give you the rest of the money. So Rabbi Hanina, the Gemara says, goes and buys some food, comes home with a bunch of stuff. His wife says, where'd you get all this from? He says, come on, we haven't eaten in a couple of days. Literally, they haven't eaten in a couple of days. Shabbat's coming. Let's get ready. Kiddush. And he wants to eat. The wife said, no, I'm not eating until you tell me where you got this food. Now, she's not saying I'm not eating because she just finished eating a steak. Not eating meaning she hasn't eaten in a couple of days. But still, she wants to know where Rabbi Hanina got the money. Now, really, think about it. What does she think? He stole it? What does she think? He's hiding it? Where does she think he got the food? I mean, if I was her, I'd wait until I got some food, got my stomach back into human shape, and then I ask him, honey, where'd you get the money from? But no, this tzaddiket, she wants to know where our dear husband got the money from. So of course Rabbi Hanina says to her, my dear wife, don't worry. You said go to my boss. I went to my boss. I prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me this. Rabbi Hanina's wife says to him, absolutely not. I am not going to eat any of this food unless you promise me that you're going to pray to Hashem to return this leg back to him. I don't want anything from the next world. Rabbi Hanina says to her, well, why not? He gave us a blessing. Usually if somebody gives you a blessing, you say thank you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you a blessing. What could go wrong? Rabbi Hanina's wife says to her husband, no, my dear husband, I don't want to take a leg from our table in Olam Haba and then show up in Olam Haba after all of the suffering we went through our whole life to have our table in heaven miss a leg. No way. Let us continue suffering and not enjoy this world. Rabbi Hanina says to her, yeah, but you're allowed. She says, no, I'm not going to do it. What do? Let's go to the Gdol Hador. Who's the Gdol Hador? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi HaKadosh. It's at night, it's Shabbat, they haven't eaten yet. They go to Rabbi HaKadosh's house. Yes? Sorry, Rabbi, to bother you, I need to talk to you. It couldn't wait for tomorrow, maybe in the shiur after the prayer. No, Shlom Bayit issue. Shlom Bayit issue, Rabbi Chanina, Shlom Bayit issue, sure, what happened? Rabbi tells him the whole story. Rabbi HaKadosh, so happy. That is Rabbi Chanina. Kind of miracle, open miracle from Hashem. He says, don't worry, tell your righteous wife. Tell her not to worry. Whatever you're missing in heaven, it's on me. You can take it from my share. Rabbi Chanina tells this to his wife. And the wife of Rabbi Chanina was a Talmidah Chachama. And she says to Rabbi Chanina, I'm sorry, but go tell the Rebbe that I disagree. Not because I know more, but rather he himself taught that you cannot compare the reward that a person gets for the Torah they learn with poverty versus the Torah that a person learns with wealth. You learned Torah through poverty. Your reward is such. Rabbi HaKadosh comes from the lineage of David HaMelech, the Gamliel family. He is extremely wealthy. He's the Nasi Israel. He's the prince. Surely he's going to get a reward, but it won't be like yours. Now, of course, Rabbi Chanina is embarrassed to go tell his Rebbe that this is what his wife said, but what is he going to do? The poor guy goes back to Rebbe. I'm sorry, Rebbe. My wife, she disagrees with you. Excuse me? Yeah, she actually brought one of your chidushim. That the reward that I'm going to get from my Torah is going to be bigger than yours. Because I learned my Torah through poverty, anguish, starvation, and kvodah. Although you're a giant, although you're a tzaddik, although all of us agree that you could be the next Mashiach. Needless to say, your Torah was learned through wealth. Therefore, our rewards are not the same, and therefore you don't have the ability to pay me what I'm missing in Olam Haba. Rabbi HaKadosh says to Rabbi Chanina, your wife is right. Tzadka mimeni, she's right. Go listen to her. Listen to her. Go and listen to her. Rabbi Chanina goes and tells his wife that she's right. Fine, I agree with you. After Shabbat, I'm going to pray for Hashem to take back this leg. And that's exactly what happens. And the Gemara says he prayed for Hashem to take back this golden leg back. And a bigger miracle happened. What's a bigger miracle? Hashem actually took back the leg of the table. Why is that a bigger miracle? The Gemara says, typically, the type of miracles that Hashem performs in this world is that He puts things into this world. He doesn't take them out. He doesn't take blessings away. He usually brings blessings. But because He loved Rabbi Chanina and the righteousness of his wife so much, He made a miracle above a miracle. This is a woman that builds. This is a woman that builds. On another end, though, I heard a story from Arav Meir Eliyahu, Shichyeh, in a shiur about Parashat Ki Titzeh. And he says a story about Rav Steinemann, Alav Shalom. Rav Steinemann, one of the Gedolei Ador, giant chacham, huge tzaddik. And for anyone that spent any time learning next to Rav Steinemann, with him, from anything that he wrote or said, knew that literally every other word that would come out of his mouth was constantly talking about judgment of Gehinnom. Constantly. He was petrified of Gehinnom. Constantly looking for different ways to serve Hashem even better. Now, if you look at the life of Rav Steinemann, he was like the modern days Rabbi Hanina, complete poverty. Literally, his whole house, the whole house was a single room. Single room. Happy as can possibly be. Ate potato his whole life. That's all he would eat, a potato. One time somebody said, Kvod Rav, maybe the Rav wants something else, maybe different than a potato. Rav Steinemann looks at this fellow strangely. Why? I've been eating a potato my whole life. So far, so good. Why should I change? Such is the mind of a holy person versus a person that's still not necessarily a bad person, but still looking to enjoy this world. Let's just say that. So anyway, one of the avrechim that was well off, had money, success, came to see Rav Steinemann. And he asked the Rav for a question. He said, Kvod Rav, I have a little bit of a dilemma. Hashem blessed us with the ability to build our dream house, and we just finished building it. It's a huge mansion, 3 stories, and has a pool, and has all the fanciest things, and it's a beautiful, beautiful house, like a palace. So Rav Steinemann looks at this fellow, this avrech, waiting for the question. He says, well, I'm concerned now that I finished building it. We're supposed to move in, and I'm a little concerned. What are you concerned about exactly? I'm concerned that now that we're getting this huge gift from Hashem, that we're, this house, such a beautiful house, that perhaps this is going to take away one of the golden legs from my table in heaven. I'm concerned. So maybe the Rabbi can tell me, am I allowed to enjoy this house, or do you think it's going to take away from my heaven? Rav Steinemann did not skip a beat and did not sugarcoat anything. Looks at this avrech and looks at one of the Talmidim that's always, one of the helpers of the Rav that's always there. And he looks at his helper and he says, just look at this. Here you have a Jew in his 90s, meaning talking about himself, that every moment of the day is trying to figure out if there is even a small chance that he's going to not go to Gehenom. And still can't figure out if there is such a chance of him not going to Gehenom. And yet you have this youngster here, it's not only certain that he's going to heaven, is already concerned about the golden table he has in heaven. How is there such a difference? Surely the avrech got a response different than he thought. And his dumbfounded look knew that Rav Steinemann is saying 100% emet without sugarcoating. And then Rav Steinemann completes the session with, just be happy if you don't go to Gehenom. You see, Rabotai Yekarim, when a person lives a delusional life, even if they're learning Torah and they're doing mitzvot, and they think that, oh, I'm going to heaven for sure, surely you're deluding yourself. Deluding yourself if you think that everything is a certainty, because so long as you're alive, you still have a lot of work to do. But sometimes you have people that are so deluded with whatever version of reality they're living that day, that perhaps they think that Hashem will reconstruct reality just for their sake, just like he did for Rabbi Hanina. Now again, when it comes to somebody that wants to earn a good place in Olam Haba, in heaven, they not only have to serve Hashem to the fullest extent, praying, learning Torah, doing all of the mitzvot, and not only doing them with excitement, but they need the right wife that's going to support them to do it. You can't get to that point if your wife is constantly pulling you back to go to the mall. You can't be this big tzaddik if your wife wants you to come and hang out with her and her girlfriend drink coffee every day. You're never going to be a tzaddik if all day you're going to museums. Sure, once in a while you need to go and spend some time with the family and even take a vacation. But there's a time and a place for everything. And a person that wants to reach the highest level, or even a good level, or even happiness, needs to have a wife that supports that ideology, that supports that mission, that is on board where he wants to be. And not only on board, pushing him there, and perhaps even further than he's willing to push himself. That's a wife. That's why Rabbi Chanina is not only mentioned alone, but his wife is mentioned too. Could have easily said Rabbi Chanina had this idea himself. But our authentic Gemara, our holy Gemara, tells us exactly what we need to hear. It's not just the husband alone. It's not just a tzaddik. There's a wife. That's why Shlomo HaMelech brings a statement in Proverbs, chapter 14, first verse, where it says, Chachmot Nashim banta beita v'iveret beyadea terseu. The wise among women each built her house, but the foolish one tears it down with her hands. That's what Shlomo HaMelech says. The wise women, the wise one, she's going to build the house. The foolish one will tear it down. What does it mean? Come the Chachamim and tell us. The wise one is like the wife of On ben Pelet, who saw that he was joining bad friends like Korach that were going against Moshe Rabbeinu. They were going against the Torah, and reminded our dear husband, my dear husband, even though what you say may seem right to you, even though Korach is very, very motivating, inspiring, charismatic, and even speaks well, and I like him as a person, he is going against the Torah. He is going against the rabbi. We cannot be on the same boat as him. Yeah, but maybe he is right. Even if he's right, he's wrong by default. By going against the rabbis, he's wrong by default. Even if his argument is right, he's wrong. Not like some of the heretics say, like this Rasha Merusha Otero says, any Jew that fears the Almighty should go against the Rabbanut of Israel. This is the, not oxymoron, the moronic statement that the heretics will say, that the ones that fear Hashem should go against the head rabbis. This is the idiocy of people. On ben Pelet had a righteous wife, and that righteous wife said to him, listen, whatever Korach is saying may be right, may be wrong, may be this, may be that. Either way, that's not the tradition. Either way, that's not what was accepted. Either way, that's not what was paskined. We don't go against the Psak Halacha. We're going with the head rabbi. We're going with Moshe Rabbeinu. But then On ben Pelet says, yeah, but I already made a promise. I already made a donation. I already made a commitment. On ben Pelet was a smart man, was a successful man, was a person that was a leader. His wife was even better. She was a genius. Not a genius because she had a bigger position. Not a genius because she had more in any other aspect. But rather she knew how to use the gifts that a Kadosh Baruch Hu gave her in order to save the eternity of her husband. And told him, don't worry. You just be here. Eat the food I'm about to make you. She made sure that he had a pleasant time. He was happy. He was content. He went to sleep. After he went to sleep, she made sure that he stayed asleep. And while he was asleep, she made sure that those friends were never going to come back around again. How? She went by her own entrance of her tent, and as soon as she saw that Korach and his rabbi friends, the Erev Rav rabbi friends that he had, were coming to bring on to go and protest against Moshe Rabbeinu, she took off her kisui rosh. And these people, they were not complete reshaim in every aspect. In fact, they were tzaddikim in some aspects, because as soon as they saw an immodest married woman, they ran away. They said, what? That's his wife, immodest woman. He can't be part of us. We're tzaddikim. He can't be part of us. We're going against Moshe Rabbeinu. We can't have wicked people like this guy that has his wife with no kisui rosh on. And they ran away. Why did she do it? She did it in order to save her husband. She used her beauty to save her husband from an eternity of Gehenom, which is where Korach and the rest of his friends went to by going against the rabbis. Here, the Gemara says, this woman that Shlomo HaMelech is talking about, building the house, that's On Ben Pelet's wife. She is the builder. She is the genius. And every woman that's helping her husband get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, first and foremost by learning Torah, by doing mitzvot, but even more so by distancing him away from all the wickedness, that's that woman. That's the genius. That's the most kosher woman. What about the Isha Oreset, the one that destroys? Chachamim say the one that destroys is Korach's wife. Korach's wife, she's the destroyer. Why? She wanted our husband to be number one, even if number one meant to go against the tradition, to go against the halacha, to go against the rabbis, but she wanted more. She wanted more. And therefore, she destroyed our house. Not only our husband did not get the position that he was looking for, but he ended up losing his entire life and is still in Gehenom with all of his followers until this day, 3,333 years later. Still in Gehenom. Why? Because she is a woman that destroys. I had, Baruch Hashem, a small chidush about my own dear Rabbanit that I wrote in my book, in the introduction to the book that we're going to publish, B'ezrat Hashem, very soon. The Agamaim, the new book in Hebrew. And in there, in the beginning, I write different blessings for different people and thank you and gratitude for different people that have been supportive and helpful, whether it's my Rav Ephraim, or it's the Rav that gave me the smicha, Rav Spivak, alav shalom, or it's one of the big inspirations in our life, Rav Yosef Mizrahi, and other great tzaddikim that have been part of my life, my parents, my siblings. But the one that has been the pillar of fire behind every single thing that I've been through, thick and thin, difficulty, nightmare, pain, agony, success, change in life, everything has been my very dear wife. And on her, I wrote, she's a Isha Bona and a Isha Oreset. She is both. She is the builder and the destroyer. What's the chidush? The chidush here is my Rabbanit, Levana. May Hashem give her many, many years with great health and a lot of happiness with the kids and with everything else that we're doing. She's a builder of the house that Baruch Hashem we have, full of Kedusha. All my kids see is just good Kedusha. All they want is Kedusha. Learning how to blow a shofar, or learning what kosher is, or learning the parasha, all Kedusha. She builds. Constantly pushing me to do more shurim, constantly pushing me to do everything that we're doing, even though that means it's a sacrifice, because I barely even see them, maybe on Shabbat. Even though I work out of the house. Still, there's so much spent on Am Yisrael and everyone else that literally you have to make that sacrifice. So she's the builder. She's behind everything. But what's the destroyer? How could she be a builder and a destroyer? Not chas v'shalom, a destroyer like Korach's wife, the Reshait, but a destroyer in a good aspect. One that wants to be a tzadikah. One that wants to be someone that's extraordinary has to be a destroyer of everything that's foreign to that kedusha that we're looking for. You can't just say, listen, I'm going to do all the mitzvot, and as long as we do the mitzvot, we're going to be okay. It's not enough. In today's world, it's not enough. You have to know you are going to have to fight God's wars. Why? Not because He needs you to, but because He wants you to. Because you need to. Because the Yetzer Hara will constantly come and try to interfere with that house of Kedusha that you're trying to build. Trying to infiltrate in one way or another. Through the teachers, through the fake rabbis, through the different speakers, through the fake friends and the neighbors and the communities. Through whatever way. And you are being a tzaddiket wife. What did you do? Every single time someone wants to interfere with the holiness of the house, immediately it's destroyed. Immediately it ends. No more. Why? It doesn't belong here. We are looking to build a house, perhaps we'll have some tzaddikim in it. If it's not, simply it doesn't belong. Simply it doesn't belong. That's it. Destroy everything that's going to interfere. Does that mean you have to sometimes make difficult decisions? But it's for the sake of the ultimate success, for eternity. And for that, my dear wife, you are Isha Bunah and Isha Oreset. You build a house of Kedusha that's all over the world, but also are destroying everything that will interfere with it, both in the organization and privately. And that, Rabotai Karim, is something that I could share with you from my own personal life that I highly recommend you do and you look for in a woman. Not just a woman that's looking to enjoy the community and do all the nice things, but also a woman that's aware that you'll have to fight for the truth at some point. You'll have to fight for the sake of Kedusha at some point. You'll have to do it. Why? Because the other side is fighting. The other side is looking for you. The more righteous you are, the more they're going to look for you. What do you think? The Satan is looking for all of the avaryanim in the streets? All of the criminals in the streets? No, he doesn't bother with them. He's not looking for them. They're already in his army. The Yetzer Hara, the Satan, the Malach HaMavet, and his evil wife. What are they looking for? They're looking for the righteous ones. They're looking for On Ben Pelet's wife. They're looking for all of the tzaddikot, the Sarai Menus of the world. That's who they're looking for. How? Getting to their community, getting to their students, getting to their family, getting to their friends, getting to the retailer, getting to feminism, getting to atheism, getting through in some way or another. Any which way, they're trying to get to the righteous people. Why? That's the prize. That's the prize. So if you're going to be someone that is going to aspire to be the tzaddikah that you want to be, you have to be aware of this. And you have to not just focus on building holy things, but already be aware you'll have to fight all of the unholy. All of those bad suggestions that your girlfriend gave you, that you should buy this dress or you should buy that dress that's not modest. All of those suggestions that your potential shidduch gave you, moving to some modern type of community that has no mechitza. Saying, listen, surely it's a mechitza, maybe it's not as high as it should be, but listen, you don't have to go to shul. No, Habibi. Harav Moshe Feinstein, alav shalom, paskins, if a mechitza in a bet knesset is not at least 3 amot. 3 amot is between 5 to 6 feet. It's between 60 inches and 72 inches. Debate among the Chachamim. Nonetheless, 3 amot. Between the 5 feet to 6 feet. if the mechitza is not at least that, not that that's the goal, it's not at least 5 to 6 feet, it's not a mechitza. Meaning, if you have a mechitza that's up to here on me, that's like, let's say 4 feet, it's not a mechitza. I'm 5'9", 5'8.5", whatever it is. I look like I'm 3 feet, whatever it is. If your mechitza is not reaching pretty much the top of my head, it's not a mechitza. It's not a mechitza. And in a place like that, you're not allowed to pray. So if your friend told you, listen, our community, it may not have the mechitza of Rav Moshe Feinstein, but we have unity. You, my dear tzadikah, have to tell your husband or future husband, I love you, and therefore we're not moving there. And therefore we're moving out, and until we move out, you're not going to Bet Knesset. Why? Because the Gaon Ador, Rav Moshe Feinstein, alav shalom, said, this is not a place to pray. This is not a place to pray. Yeah, but what about there's going to be machloket when people see that your husband is not going to be Knesset anymore? The tzadikah wife will say to her husband, let there be a machloket. In fact, it's good there will be a machloket. That machloket is for Shamayim. Let everybody find out that I'm telling my husband not to go to Bet Knesset in a place that's not even meeting the conditions of a Bet Knesset. Let everybody know that the mechitza is inappropriate. If the rabbi didn't do anything about it until now, then apparently we have to do something about it as a community. And if he doesn't care, we're going to move out and find somewhere else. And until then, my husband's not going. A woman that builds is not a woman that's worried about going to Bet Knesset herself. A woman that builds a house of Kedusha is worried that the Bet Knesset her husband is going to is kosher, meets the qualifications of that Bet Knesset. A woman that builds is not looking for the hottest, most beautiful dress on the market. A woman that builds is a woman that's making sure that her kids and herself are not spending any time whatsoever looking at anything that's not even an option because it's not kosher. It's not modest. You don't go to the supermarket or the restaurant looking at pork sandwiches. Why? Because you know, as a Jew, it's not an option. The same concept goes to a Bat Israel. You don't go to stores that sell immodest clothes. You simply don't. Why? Why should I put myself in front of a test? Why should I look at something that's not an option? Now you're going to say, oh, but maybe you can kosherize it. Why do I need to? Why can't I just buy something that's much kosher? Oh, it's very difficult to find kosher. Okay, it's difficult, but you'll find it. And if you can't find it, you can make it. There's plenty of people looking for work, and I'm sure they're able to, make you a dress if you get them the material. The reality is, Rabotai, is a woman that builds is looking for constant ways to keep the sanctity in her house growing. She's not looking to build her reputation. She's not looking to build her name. She's not looking to build her bank account. She's looking to build the sanctity in her home. That's a kosher woman. That's Rabbi Hanina's wife. That's the Gaon Vilna's wife. That's Sarah Imenu. That's what it is. Now, of course, such a woman has to know that if she acts this way, she's going to earn herself a good husband. She's going to earn herself a good husband. And that husband has to also have a few things that make him very special. One of the Gedolei Ador, Gedolei Roshei Yeshivot, from the previous generation, Rav Shkop, Rav Shimon Shkop, he was a giant chacham, and he wrote a sefer called Sharei Yosher. Now, when he came to the United States, the Bachurim wanted to give him a gift. The Gedol Ador is coming to visit, wanted to stay, wanted to give him a gift. But what is someone that's so righteous, such a genius?
in the things that he wrote, the mindset, the ideology, the philosophy that's inside his work is out of this world. Literally, people think that the fools of today know anything about philosophy, know anything about anything. If you just simply read the books of our Chachamim, you'll literally hate yourself for ever wasting a single moment. You'll hate yourself ever wasting a single moment looking at the works or the speeches of the fools of the day. But needless to say, this Sefer Sharei Yosher, even a Rav Kook, Alav Shalom, said that the book was Sharei Yosher was an extraordinary work. Surely the author has Yosher. The author has a happiness. How could Rav Kook know that Rav Shkop has happiness? He said, anyone that wrote such a work surely has it. Surely has this blessing. Now, this Rav Shkop, when he came to America, the Talmidim there wanted to give him a gift, but they knew that somebody of his spiritual status is not going to appreciate or want watches or otherwise. What does he want? They give him his own book, but not just any copy of his own book. The version of the copy that they all studied. They give him that version, and after he sees how many times they went through it because of how, beat up it is, because of how many times they each went through it and read it, he started crying. He started crying. Why? This is what I spent my whole life on. And you read it. You learned it. You gave it Kedusha. By learning it, by watching it, you gave it the Kedusha. You sanctified it. There's nothing better than knowing people are learning your work. There's nothing better than knowing that people are growing through it. Now, for someone to be that great, they also have to have someone that's great. And when Rav Shkop was just a young man and already recognized for his wisdom, he's looking for a shidduch. He's looking for a special woman that's going to help him grow to be one of the Gedolei Ador. Help him grow to be the Talmid Chacham that he wants to be. And of course, since his name had a good name, Tov Shem Mishem and Tov, a good name is better than good wine, one of the wealthy people in the community said to him, I want you to marry my daughter. She's extremely righteous and she wants a scholar like yourself. That's all she wants. That's all we want as a family. And I'll finance the whole thing. All you need to worry about is write your book, learn Torah. That's it. I'll finance the whole thing. And that was the agreement. Of course, they went on a few dates, saw the beauty in each other, saw that they have the same ideology, and the marriage was set. But by the time they got to literally just days before the marriage, a few things happened in the world leading to the father's bankruptcy. So much so that he couldn't even afford to pay for the wedding. Needless to say, to finance the life of Rav Shkop and his daughter, which is going to be Rav Shkop's wife. So of course people came to Rav Shimon Shkop, listen, you're a special bachur, you can get somebody just as good, even better, this, that. Why go into it? Maybe they're going to now have you go to work. Maybe now they're going to ask you to go borrow money for them. What do you need this for? Break the shidduch. Rav Shimon Shkop says, no way. No way am I breaking the shidduch. I made a commitment because I know she's a tzaddiket that I want. She is the tzaddiket that's going to help me be what I'm going to be. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will provide whatever he's going to provide. And despite all of the recommendations of the friends, he stuck with her. And with her, he became one of the Gedolei Ador. He became one of the Gedolei Ador. What do you think? It was easy for them? You think they didn't have any naysayers? You think they didn't have any people fighting them? You didn't have any people saying all types of things about their choices? Sure. But that's why. to be a righteous woman, you have to understand you'll have to be a bona and a oreset. You have to build and destroy. You have to build the kedusha while fighting the tumah, because the tumah is everywhere. Now, what happens if a righteous woman finds out that the tumah is coming from her own husband, and after trying to influence him in every way, shape, or form, she sees it's to no avail? She sees that this person wants to continue watching pornography, wants to continue desecrating Hashem's name, wants to continue doing all the things that are destroying the house, and she wants out of this marriage. Now, of course, Torah says there's a mitzvah to get married, but there's also a mitzvah to get divorced. If the marriage is not a good marriage, for legitimate reasons, it's a mitzvah to give a get. Problem is that you have the secular world ruining our ability to implement the Torah the way it's supposed to. First and foremost, most people have this understanding that only the husband has the power of keeping the wife hostage, which is not true. In fact, the woman also has the power that, according to the Torah, if they allow the Torah to be implemented the way it's supposed to be, the wife also, according to certain conditions, doesn't have to allow the divorce to happen. If the husband wants to leave her, he has to have valid reasons. He can't just leave her just because. He found a secretary more attractive. Doesn't work that way. So the mentality that all of the strength is just in the husband's hands is not exactly true. Now, of course, there is more in the hands of the husband, because in essence, when there was a purchase, when there was a marriage, a Jewish marriage, it's a purchase. He's in essence buying her, therefore he has to release her and give her a get if there's a divorce. But the point being is, if it's not a valid reason, Torah will force him to remain married to her. We actually learned one of those things in Parashat Shavua last week. But either way, sometimes you'll see a kosher woman want to leave a non-kosher man. And this non-kosher man won't let her go. Why? He's a tyrant. He's a terrorist. He's a wicked, awful human being. As it happened at the time of Rabbi Akiva Eagle, a couple of 100 years ago. There was one guy that became a complete apikos and left his wife, found himself another non-Jewish girl. But in the meantime, he knew that all these Orthodox Jews, they're not going to allow his religious Jewish wife to get remarried, even though he converted to a different religion, because he still has a marriage there. He didn't give her a get, and he refused to give her a get because he wanted to torture her. He wanted to leave her alone in the world forever, while he does all the crimes under the sun. So after the rabbis tried in different ways to no avail, they brought this issue to Rabbi Akiva Eagle. Rabbi Akiva Eagle, Kodesh Kodashim, one of the Gedolei Ador, not to be mistaken with Rabbi Akiva of the Gemara from almost 2,000 years ago. Rabbi Akiva Eagle hears this and says, bring this apikos, this heretic, bring him to the Bedin. They go and they tell this heretic that the Gedolei Ador Rabbi Akiva Eagle says he has to come to the Bedin. And they convince him to come, and he gets to the Bedin and he starts laughing at Rabbi Akiva Eagle's face. Looks at the old sage as if he's a nothing. And after a few seconds, Rabbi Akiva Eagle gets the point of who he's in front of. And he says to him, you see, our Torah paskins that there are two ways that a woman gets her get, gets released from her husband. One, the husband gives her a get. Two, the husband dies. Which one do you want? the heretic hears the old man, hears the holy Rabbi Akiva Eger say such threatening words, and he starts laughing in his face. He says, what are you old man gonna do? What are you religious people gonna do to me? Nothing. You can't do nothing to me. You can't force me to do anything. Rabbi Akiva Eger repeats what he said again. There are two ways that a Jewish woman gets released from a marriage. One, the husband gives a get. Two, he dies. Which one do you want? The heretic sees it serious and responds the same way. At that moment, Rabbi Akiva says to him, and that's that. You decided what it's going to be. You decided, and that's the psak. The heretic gets up abruptly and walks out of the Bet Din, and literally one step outside of the Bet Din, he drops dead. Gets a heart attack or brain aneurysm and dies on the spot. Just like Rabbi Akiva Eger said. You have two options. Either give the poor woman a get, release her, or you're going to die. You think it's a joke. No problem. You decided what's going to happen to you. Now actually, getting a get, Rabotai Yekarim, getting a get has never been an easy thing to do with people that are heretical, people that are against the Torah, people that are delusional. Unfortunately, there are many delusional people in the world today, just as there's always been delusional people. And therefore, some people decide that even though they want to consider themselves religious, they want to keep the wife that doesn't want to be with them anymore for whatever reason or another. They want to keep them hostage. And in many cases, they don't have the ground to stand on to keep the wife hostage. Now, of course, in some cases, it's actually the right move to keep the wife hostage and not give her a get, because she's a cheater, she's a liar, she deserves to be a hostage. But in many cases, it's not. In many cases, it's simply a get, move on with your life, she'll move on with her life, and both of you will live better lives. In most cases, that's really what it is. But unfortunately, sometimes the ego gets in the way. The ego gets in the way, and the husband doesn't want to give the get, and he keeps the woman a hostage and doesn't allow her to have a Jewish marriage or any marriage that's considered valid according to Judaism forever. And unfortunately, there are terrible stories of certain women staying a aguna for many years, 5, 10, 20, 30 years. I heard one story that was like 40 years. Horrible stories. But that is the decree from heaven. That's the decree. Now, was it always this way? Not necessarily. You see, those very same people that are promoting feminism, promoting homosexuality, promoting the reform mentality, the reform society, the Sodom and Gomorrah, you see, those very same people are going to do what they're going to do. But they become much more dangerous when they infiltrate into our own backyards, our own communities, by simply reporting what's going on in our communities to the authorities because they don't agree with it. And by doing that, they actually cause damage to themselves. What am I talking about? This exact issue. You see, according to our Torah, what Rabbi Akiva Eger is saying, that it's either the husband gives the woman a get or the husband dies, it's 100% truth. But there is something in between. What is that something in between? What the Rambam writes. The Rambam paskins la halacha, And this is the halacha that that's the halacha everywhere in the world. Unfortunately, we can't implement it because we have a bunch of feminists and reformers and all types of people that are inside our communities that will call the cops if we did this, and did call the cops when it was done. See, the Rambam in Ilchot Girushin, chapter 2, halacha number 20, says the following. When a man whom the law requires to be compelled to divorce his wife, meaning that this person's whose wife says that she's repulsed by him, a man who's married to a woman for 10 years without her bearing children, a man who becomes afflicted by bad breath constantly or odor, and he's simply disgusting to her, or he becomes a collector of dog feces, miner of copper. In so many words, he meets the requirement of simply unbearable. He's an unbearable person, and he doesn't want to change. And therefore, his wife wants to divorce him, and he has to allow her to leave. He has to allow her to leave. And the Bet Din Paskin, you have to give her a get. And he says, no, I don't want to give her a get. So the Rambam says, when this man, whom the law requires to be compelled to divorce his wife, does not desire to divorce her, the court should have him beaten until he consents, at which time they should have a get written. And the get is acceptable. And this applies at all times and in all places. Meaning, it doesn't have to be a law just implemented in Eretz Yisrael. It can be in the exile, the diaspora. And it doesn't have to be at the time of the Bet HaMikdash. This is at all times, meaning today also technically, this is an halacha that is enforceable. That if he doesn't want to give the get, but he's supposed to, because the Bet Din says, you are not simply good for her, we determine you have to give her a get for halachic reasons. He doesn't want to give her a get. He wants to keep her a prisoner. The Bet Din is supposed to have couple of nice chasidei gur, one of these guys that like to eat the whole chulin just by themselves, one of these guys that have a little bit of extra energy to exert, take him, show him a nice, good time of what chasidut looks like, until he says, you know what, I want to give my wife a get. I want to give my wife a get. And Rambam says it's acceptable. Now you say, wait a minute, if you look previous, you look after, it says technically you can't force a get. Can't force a get. So how could this be? In fact, the Rambam says you could even hire Gentiles to beat him up. You can even hire Gentiles to beat him up. Why is this get not void? How is it acceptable? He's being compelled, either by Jews or by Gentiles, to divorce against his will. And a get must be given voluntarily. So how could this be that this is allowed? Rambam is asking himself, how? This is the chidush that the Rambam brings. Because the concept of being compelled against one's will applies only when speaking about a person who is being compelled and forced to do something that the Torah does not obligate him to do, such as a person who was beaten until he consented to sell something. The Torah doesn't obligate him to sell anything. Or to give a present. The Torah doesn't obligate you to give any presents. So such a thing, to beat somebody up until he sells you a house, to beat somebody up until he gives you a present, that's forbidden. That's not a permissible consent. If, however, the person's own yetzirah, the person's own evil inclination presses him to negate the observance of a mitzvah or to commit a transgression, and he was beaten until he performed the action he was obligated to perform, or he disassociated himself from the forbidden action, he's not considered to have been forced against his will. On the contrary, it's he himself who is forcing his own conduct to be debased. What is the Rambam? What is the Rambam really saying here? He's saying deep inside, every Jew wants to fulfill the Torah. But he has desires, he has an ego, he has an evil inclination that's causing him to follow his desires and his ego. So by giving him a beating, you're simply removing that ego. You're simply reminding him that the Yetzer Hara is an inclination you can get rid of for now. Give her the get. You want to do it. You just forgot. Why? Because the ego. Because the reputation, because the this, because the that. Give her the get. Oh, you don't want to give her the get? That's your Yetzer Hara talking. Your Yetzer Hara is saying you don't want to give her the get. You are saying you want. So let us remind you. And you give him a nice, and he says ow and ooh and e, makes all types of special effects. And chazaku baruch, mazal tov. You gave her a get. Yeah, I gave her a get. See? I knew you wanted to do it. Chazaku baruch. That's the actual Torah. That's the Torah. Is it implemented today? Unfortunately, no. And 99% of communities no. Why? Anytime it was in recent history, people called the cops and got the helpers arrested. And even more so, had the community, so-called leaders and tattletale rats, make them look as if they're evil people, make them look as if they are bad people. So what do they do for themselves? They think, oh, you don't want this halacha to be implemented, right? You want to use the society's modern day law. Go to court, civil court, go do this, go do that. So what happened as a result? You simply made the get crisis what it is, where the rabbis, the Beit Din can't implement the law. In fact, in Eretz Yisrael, they can't even write the person's on nidui. They usually write the siman and the Shulchan Aruch. They don't write he's on nidui. He's like on cherem. Why? Because then you're forcing him and this and that. In so many words, the secular society and unfortunately the secular mentality within the religious community has made the divorce crisis of women not being able to get gets what it is. And now they're saying, look, your religion is forcing women to stay married. No. Wrong. Our religion, our Torah allowed us to get rid of bad people. You, with your stupidity, your foolishness, your ignorance, and your addiction to everything that's against the Torah, you're the one that caused the get crisis to become what it is. You did. Why? We had a system, a 3,000-year-old system to deal with bad guys. But you decided that you know better than us. And you are not allowing us to do what we can. Are not allowing us to do what we should. To deal with all these bad guys. And this is, Rabotai, unfortunately, what it's going to be until Mashiach comes. Why? Because there's not enough righteous women that are fighting against the impurity. There are many righteous women that are fighting for mitzvot, that are adding more sanctity to Am Yisrael, adding more sanctity to their homes, many of them, but not enough fighting all of the impurity, not enough fighting the wars that we need to fight. Many people are trying to make all types of silly films and documentaries, trying to do all types of things to expose people that are not letting their wives go, and they're trying to do all types of things to show how this, and there's something wrong with the system, and so on. But no one is actually discussing the halacha. Why? Because none of them believe in the Torah. They call themselves religious Jews. Some people even call themselves rabbis that are part of these silly documentaries. But not a single one of them is mentioning this halacha. Why? They don't really believe it. They believe in society. They believe in civil. They believe in no violence. Why? Because that's their society today. That's the feminist mentality. That's the enlightened mentality. That's the modern mentality without the mikveh for half. That's the mentality. If you allow the Jewish people to practice Judaism like it's supposed to be, there wouldn't be room for bad people. Why? They wouldn't survive. He simply wouldn't survive. They would beat the guy until he dies, or he gives the get. Now, of course, again, if you think this is wrong, that means that your mind is not yet there with where the Torah is. Why? Because this is Rambam. This is not Yaron Reuven creating some crazy fanatic rule. This is what the halacha is. You look at Shulchan Aruch, you look at the Rambam, you look at many other poskim. This is what it is. We can't implement it, not because the Torah forbids it, but rather because society, and not just any society, not the American society or the Israeli society, but rather the Jewish religious society has enough stinkers inside that won't let us implement such a rule. Immediately they'll go to the cops. Immediately they'll go to the thing, and immediately it ends with problems for the people that are trying to help. Now, of course, the Torah knows exactly who and what we're dealing with. And we have, Baruch Hashem, a lot of other ways that you could entice people to do what they're supposed to be doing anyway. But none of those ways are as effective as what the halacha really is. None of them. Why? Simple. Some people are willing to hear the protests every day for 30 years, just not to have their ego hurt. In fact, they like the protest. They like the attention. Sometimes I don't understand some of these people, but apparently you have to be a psychopath in order to understand a psychopath. Some of these guys that keep these women a aguna, without giving her a get, they themselves move on with their life. But they still don't let the girl move on, even though she's right or she's wrong. It doesn't really make a difference. I never really understood. Just let her go. She doesn't want to be with you. And anyway, you moved on. What do you care? It's all ego. It's all ego. And many times you have all types of bad people, bad friends, Korach and his followers, continuing to pump them on and cheer them on. No, you stand for your rights. You stand for your kavod. This is right. This is this. This is that. And in reality, all you're doing is you're hurting yourself and you're hurting other people. At the end of it all, if you knew that this person, that although they hurt you, although they offended you, although they did all the wrong things in the world, they did do some good things for you. Perhaps they gave you a kid, or 2, or 3. Perhaps they made you happy for a little while. Perhaps they're not all as bad at all times. At some point they were decent. Maybe you could think about that and think about the fact that, you know what? Even though she hurt me, even though she's terrible, even though it's everything, what do I gain out of keeping her a prisoner? Other than nothing. Other than nothing, what do I gain out of it? And the truth be told is, nothing. You don't get anything. Other than simply being a spiritual terrorist, you don't gain anything. And unfortunately, all of those people that like to keep their ex-wives, or they like to call them my current wife, they like to say that they're, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I don't know the details, and I don't know this, and I don't know that. Fine. I may not know, but I do know that if you were doing everything right, this wouldn't have happened in the first place. Why? That's what the Torah tells us. That's what the Torah tells us. If you are doing everything right, it wouldn't have happened to you. So perhaps you don't see your own fault, just like the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says. En adam roeh chova be'atzmo. You don't see your own fault. You see that she's wrong, and perhaps you're right that she is wrong, but you're not 100% right. You're not 100% right. Why don't you move on? Why don't you let her move on? And simply get rid of all this anger and agony and pain and nightmare and move on with your life. Move on with your life. Don't force Hashem to be the hand that beats you, since the rabbis can't. Don't be. so stupid. Don't be so silly. Don't be so selfish. Let all of that go. And I promise you, when you do something like that, only blessings will follow. Especially the blessing you automatically get when you do the right thing, even though somebody did the wrong thing by you. Va'olam omed al blima. We learned from Job that the whole world stands on a person that stays silent when somebody is insulting him, when somebody is going against him. Perhaps it's not the most perfect example. Maybe the example of a ma'avir al midotav, somebody that allows other people to do certain things that they wouldn't, to him, that they wouldn't done to themselves, but he doesn't go against them. He lets it go. Either way, there's many other examples you can think about, and I promise you, when you really look into the details, letting it go is the only way you can win. And even more so, you win big. You allow her to move on, you move on, and that's it. But sometimes people have the audacity to be the wrong ones and blame the rabbis. Be the wrong ones and blame the rabbis. Oh, the rabbis don't understand. They did this, and they did that, and they did this, and they did that. In one case, I saw some idiot write, they don't understand. I'm a Levi, and the Levis are going to be in charge of the gates in the Bet HaMikdash. I'm not going to let any of these rabbis go into the Bet HaMikdash. Kind of reminded me of the story that I told you guys tonight about Rav Steinemann. Is that the scholars are all concerned, the real scholars, they're all concerned if they're going to be able to avoid Gehinom. But this Am Haaretz, who doesn't even know the real definition of what a Levi is, he thinks it's just because of his last name. He doesn't realize that a Torah scholar by default is a Levi, according to the Rambam. This ignoramus is already certain that he's going to be at the gate of the Bet HaMikdash. Such is life of the fools in this world of lies. Remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't forget anybody. If you do the right thing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bless you. Not just in this world, but in the next. The most important thing that each one of us has to pray for during this upcoming Judgment Day is not only for our own good fortune of money and health, but also to have the spouse that's going to help us get to where we need to be, to fix our tikkun, to be that help that we need, even if we don't really recognize it sometimes, even if we sometimes say, I don't want any help. Pray for that too. Pray for their safety. Pray for their well-being. Pray for their success, because their success means your success. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.
מברך את הרבנים, רגע. אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל מה שיפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכרו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הגדילו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.
בעזרת השם רשת בכל הארץ. הוא היהודי הזה, הוא היה מיליונר, סגר את כל הביזנס, אמר אני משקיע פה בעולמה של תורה.
איפה הוא גר?
בפלורידה.
פלורידה, איפה זה פלורידה? באמריקה.
מיאמי. כן, ליד. אנחנו שם עכשיו הולכים להקים קהילה ספרדית.
חזק אותו בשמי.
קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
תאמינו מה שבירכתי אותו.
כן, קהילה ספרדית גדולה.